Hi, my name is Ina Field, and I'm from Bronx, New York. My work in AV includes mainly theatrical design and production. I have done some corporate production and AV work as well, but my main experience has been in the theater realm, which is interesting in our current age and time. I started in AV. Originally, I went to school for theater design, specifically scene design, and I ended up really enjoying lighting and sound design. And through that, I went into the production realm because I wanted to learn as much as possible about both. So I guess the best way you could say is I tripped into it. uh, I'm on the show because I enjoy talking with other people with a lot of experience. I, up to a certain point, had been watching the seminars and trying to learn as much as possible on my own. But I like the interactivity that this program offers. And it's something that I really enjoy, and I hope more people have enjoyed it in that way as well. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of AV Educates AV Tech Talks. I want to thank you for being here so much with us on the AV Tech Talks panel and on Facebook and everywhere else that you're watching us. So let's go into some of these house rules. We go live to Facebook every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can get notifications by when we go live by following the AV Educate page on Facebook. And while you're at it, join the AV Educate group. We'll drop the link in the comments. If you want to join the Zoom room by texting 407-504-7690. Again, that number is 407-504-7690. This number is only used for our panelists, and you won't receive any spam text from this number, but you will receive weekly invites to the Zoom room. We're opening the rooms at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and we close the doors at 6:55. But keep in mind, panelists have to participate and have to keep their cameras on during the talk. Moving forward, due to the nature of streaming, there's a bit of a delay between when we say in our Zoom room and when it hits Facebook. So when making comments or asking questions, please provide some context. The user interface becomes more sleek, and this will lead to more meaningful engagement. Now, be the sharpshooter in the room. No questions are too basic. AV's mission is to help through knowledge. People move from stagehand to technician. Chances are that others have the same questions you do, so please ask away. At the same time, we welcome comments and input on the topic at hand. So don't hold back that great topic or that correction when one of us says something inaccurate. Now, we don't know everything. We are human. We don't claim to know everything. We may discuss or show the way we do something, and it doesn't mean it's the only way, but it's the way we found that works for one of us. If you have another way that's easier or yields better results, please share that with everybody. The whole session is a live Q&A. Our questions will be discussed, the topics for about an hour, and then we'll move to more about a round table discussion. There's no formal Q&A section. Again, the whole session is a live Q&A, so don't wait until the end to ask your questions or to make your comments. And finally, a shameless plug. Please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram so we can grow bigger and collaborate with even more amazing people just like you. That's all I got, guys. Back to the main room, back to Zoom, and back to you all in Facebook land. Again, thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and thanks for sharing.
And welcome to AV Tech Talks. How's everybody doing tonight? This is our 20th episode. Omar, did you realize this was our 20th episode tonight?
I not until today I didn't realize that. No, so I'm very excited about that being our 20th episode. That's awesome.
Yes, it's pretty cool. We've got a great panel here tonight. Super excited. We have Nathan Lively who's joining us. So tonight's going to be from Sound Design Live. If you guys haven't checked that out, please go check that out. So tonight's going to be about subwoofer alignment, and I'm sure because it's an audio talk, it's going to go in a few other different directions too. But
no mics, please.
yeah, we're going to avoid talking about microphones. When I did my big audio talk, Nathan, I planned to talk about microphones for about 5 minutes in all of signal flow and gain structure, and that got derailed to be a 45-minute conversation. So we will not do that to you this time. Even though I guess I'm going to ask you if you prefer Earthworks or what microphones you prefer for measurement, but we'll get to there anyway. Does anybody from the panel have anything interesting about? Has anybody done some subwoofer alignment? Has anybody had bad experiences, great experiences? Found it very difficult? Maybe Andrew Lipnick, do you?
Actually, a lot of what I learned about subwoofer alignment, I learned from Nathan. So thank you, Nathan. I'll just say from a practical standpoint, when I was doing shows in front of live people, and there was always be a limited amount of time to set up, the subwoofer alignment would be saved to last or not happen at all. And after doing it a few times, I realized it makes a big difference. If the subs are off in some way, like you don't have the right crossover frequency or your alignment's off, the difference between it being right and wrong, it does have an impact on your audience. It really does. And I'm sure maybe Nathan will talk about that more later, but that was something I definitely discovered for myself in that whole process.
I'll admit I don't know anything about subwoofer alignment. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm going to learn a lot today. I'm going to ask a lot of dumb questions. I apologize for that. But like my first one is even just what Andrew was saying just now. What exactly are you hearing for when you're doing sublife for a woman? Like, what is it that I'm listening to that makes this need to be a thing? Because when I'm in my car or at home, it's coming out of the same speakers that everything else is coming out of. So like to me, what am I tuning for when it comes for the subs? Exactly. Like I get how a line array works, so that you get this throw distance, but a sub is kind of stationary to one place. What are we aligning essentially? If that makes any sense. And again, not an audio guy, video guy here. So lots of dumb questions today. Don't worry. I got everybody.
It's cool. I'm super glad we're talking about this. It's like something with video or with lighting that's so obvious, right? Like everyone sees you put up a grid and like align to the screen and like, well, it's clear. That's how it's done. But then audio is like, you can't see it. What are those guys doing? What's happening? Why is this important? I can't hear what's over there. Like there's all these problems and it's just not obvious what's happening.
No, 100%. And it's like, to think I've been doing this for so long and I'm talented in so many fields that I wasn't even aware that this was a part of the process, that's just part of the mystery of audio sometimes, right? Like you guys are so proficient at what you do. And I think like you and me had talked one time, when you're doing a good job, no one knows you're there, right? And this is one of those moments where, you probably did what you did so well that no one even noticed you were doing it because you just did it as part of your whole setup and it was just done and it sounded great. And like, oh yeah, he's just a good audio engineer. But it's like, yeah, but there's a lot I did to make this system sound really good for this show in this room with these speakers and your subs and all this stuff. So like, there's just, to me, it's like, I thought when you did an array or a line array, that was kind of it. The subs came on, you made them sound match and you're good to go. But there's a whole nother level involved now that we're going to dive into that I'm really interested to see it. And the fact that, someone else who's, I follow some of your stuff, but I'm always, deer in headlights. Like, what am I listening to? The benefit is that I follow along the little I do. And then when I talk to guys like Ed and Andrew that know audio very well, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of following because I know stuff from Nathan, but I don't know what you're talking about. But at least I'm following the conversation and I can at least kind of give my input and my insight. It's like, okay, well, what about X, Y, Z?
That's good. I mean, you can't have all the jobs.
Yeah. Well, as an EIC, I have to at least know, right? So when I do a lot of stuff for EIC work. Like for example, I just did a show in Sarasota and I came into Zoom operator, ended up being the EIC for the show. And being able to know all these things helps me kind of grasp the signal flow a little bit. So, had we had some kind of subs in there, I'd be like, hey, if you have the time, let's focus on getting you what you need set up so you can have more time to align your stuff and to make it sound as the best it can. Even though it's a small setup, it had 2 little subs and then sticks and then 2 line arrays on top. Nothing crazy big, but maybe if I would have known the depth of what needed to happen, like in video, we had an E2 guy. I ended up helping him out just for signal flow stuff and I did the whole room for the S3 guy. I just built the whole thing out and said, hey, here you go, change whatever you need to. because I knew what to do. But like for an audio guy, I didn't give him any consideration. He was killing it. He did great. He set up on time. But had I known like, hey, he might want to do these extra steps because he's got the tools for or the knowledge for it. Let me make sure he gets the time to do that correctly because I only have one day to set up now. So knowing these things definitely helps me in the field so that I know to make sure the guys that I'm with are getting the time they need to do their jobs to the best that they can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And audio engineers always appreciate that. It's impressive for me and a little bit surprising whenever a production manager or somebody says, oh, and I know you'll need time for your alignment, or I know you'll need time for your thing. And it's almost like it's the same thing that lighting engineers are doing with focus. We need time for focus. And it's just really nice when people remember that, even if they don't say, hey, we might not have enough time. Like it's a consideration. So that's great.
Well, I don't know if Bodhi, if you have anything you want to say, or Chris, I'm sorry, if you want to say anything to say, but I'd love to let Nathan just let you loose, man, and do your thing.
I'm actually super interested in the sub alignment too, because I wonder if it translates to car audio as well.
So if anybody else has anything they want to add or say, or not say at least, right? Nathan, man, I think the floor is yours.
Cool. So when I'm asking people to participate, should I ask them to type into the Q&A or into the chat?
The Q&A would probably make more sense.
So like for right, just
or
to
actually, sorry. Well, it
test this
depends.
out.
I guess if you're asking questions, maybe the chat. Do the chat.
Okay.
We'll leave Q&A in the Zoom webinar just for questions.
Okay, so to test this out, if I want everyone to vote on whether or not I should maintain these amazing ears, do the entire presentation, you should type yes into the chat box or no, and then we'll tabulate the responses. Then let's try that.
Got it. So I'm monitoring the Facebook line right now for everybody out there in Facebook world.
Getting a lot of no ears. All right, that's one for no ears.
I think you have more yeses.
And yeses win. That's it. We're just gonna let the halfling go.
I got a couple yeses. I got one no on Facebook world.
But you got to explain the ears, Nathan. Like what you said before we got on live.
These are ears that we got for actually to play D&D, my wife and I, and then it was right around Halloween, so they came in handy. And I was just actually putting them away because I had them left out on the table, and I was like, I'm gonna bring the presentation, see how that works out, see if that gets me some goodwill with these new friends.
As a gamer, I like the ears.
I'm with Iris.
So it looks like, yeah, in Facebook land, still overwhelming yes. We've had one no. I got a couple
keep them.
rock signs out for the ears. Bumblebee tuna. I'm not sure what that's relating to. I got in here. I got two no's now, but yeah, majority. I mean, yes. Here's one. No.
Well, I mean, Jay Clark has weighed in at this point, so I think we're going to stick with the ears.
All right. Sounds good. If it ever becomes a problem, we want people to get the most out of this. Okay. Cool. So you guys can see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So let's see. Back in February, I was at the Wayzata Middle School auditorium helping my friend Zeke with a sub-alignment. So my friend Zeke is the technical director for the Substance Church here in Minneapolis, and for their youth services, they set up a temporary system every weekend. And for those of you who have had a church gig, you are familiar with this. So here's a photo of the room. They rent some Nexo, let's see, what are these? M10s and RS15s down here. Here's Fredham House. People with no mask on, remember that? So when I arrived, the technician from the rental company that was setting these up was just finishing up her calibration and toning. And she got done, and then Zeke listened to some test tracks, some stuff with a lot of drums. He turned it up really loud, and he liked it, and he signed off on it, and the tech went home. And later, I suggested an alternative alignment, and then we did some A/B testing where they just sat and listened, and I switched back and forth, and they couldn't see the settings. And it was a really good test because they sounded really different. One of them sounded like an effect where it was like this big thing was happening. And the other one sounded just sort of like tight and more well-defined. So what was strange is like, I wondered, how did it end up this way? And so if you guys haven't seen audio analyzers before, it doesn't really matter. The point of this picture is just that there was this tiny change, like wasn't even much to measure, but it sounded so different. And here are the two different settings that we came up with. And you can see that they're quite different over here. There's we have about 45 or 40 millisecond difference between these settings that were started with and these settings that we ended with, which were on a different speaker. And so it was just funny. It left me kind of wondering, like, how do we come up with such different results? Which one is correct? How do you avoid making the same mistake? And that's what I'm here today to talk about. I want to share with you a bunch of the ways that I've screwed up and made mistakes over the years on subalignments. And one way that I've come up with that I think is going to make it a lot easier for you and should be more accurate and more consistent. But I want you to know that I'm happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Obviously, I have some stuff planned and I have some fun demos to look at. But if you have any other questions, audio stuff, hot chocolate, these ears, we can talk about anything. I don't care. All right, so thank you guys for being here. I know there's a lot of things you could be doing with your time right now, so I think it's pretty cool that you decided to spend some time with me. Thank you to AV Educate and Omar, and thanks again, Omar, for coming on the podcast. I thought that was really cool, and I love what you guys are doing with the platform and all the videos and content that you're creating. And also, I always like to just thank, all the teachers that came before me and were a huge influence on me starting all the way back in university. So I'm Nathan Lively, sound engineer, podcaster, author. I produce the Live Sound Summit, the Sound Design Live podcast, and I have a few online courses and a few books. There's one of them. I also just published this guide called The Complete Guide to Measurement Microphone for Subwoofer Alignment. If you're not an audio engineer and you're not super geeky about this stuff, do not get this. It will not make you happy. But I'm going to put a link in the chat right now if I can get back to it. Chat. Where you can download it for free. I just published this. It's a short little fun guide. And that's that. And then this is me on a personal level. That's my wife, Ellis Bradshaw, and our two ridiculous cats, Chaco and Taco. So before I dive back into kind of storytelling and teaching and looking at stuff, I would love to hear from you guys. Like, unmute your microphones and talk to me, or type into the chat and tell me, like, what do you think subalignment is? What are one or two words that come to mind for you? What is like your best, just simplified definition of what subalignment is? Why do subs want to be aligned? Why is that even a thing that we are talking about?
So I got two questions for you from Facebook right now. Alex Salcedo is asking, and this is when you were showing the image and talking and reviewing some of that stuff. He asks, is 15s too much? I don't know if that's out of context.
Oh yeah, so those subs. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with Nexo speakers. It was potentially a lot for that room and that program material, but it was also fun. Like, can you ever have too much subs? Like, what kind of question is that? Yeah, they're big, and
Never enough bass.
They're right in front of the front row. So, challenge.
So you brought up something about Nexus right here, and Jay Clark as well asked, did you use the Nexus profiles in the 4x4, or did you create a custom profile?
I don't understand that question. So I was there and I basically helped out, but I know very little about the Nexo speakers themselves. And I don't know much of anything about the control platform. I think we were just doing all of the output processing in the console.
I think what's meant by that comment was the 4x4 is their amp with a built-in processor.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry. Yeah. So ask me the question again about the amp.
So Jay Clark is asking, did you use the Nexus profiles in the 4x4, or did you create a custom profile?
I don't know. Okay, now I'm more clear on that question. I don't know how they had it set up. Sorry about that.
No worries. That's all I got from Facebook land at the moment.
Okay, so Philip says having the wavefront from the sub arrive at the listening position at the same time as the main speakers. That's cool. So yeah, arrivals are a big part of this that we're going to be talking about. Anybody else want to say anything before I keep going? Okay.
I feel like because I have seen so much of your stuff, I'm trying to hold back because I know where I think I know where you're gonna go because, like I said, I've watched enough of your videos. But yeah, these are great comments so far.
Good.
Arrival is an
stuff.
important thing, but I think it's only part of the story.
Okay, cool. So let's put this little dot over here, this ripple tank. So imagine that this is a speaker. Here's a 3D view of it. And it's putting out sound waves. You know, imagine that this is like a sine wave. And there's no problem with this, right? This looks great. It's just sort of perfect, calm, moving out, no problems. So I'm going to add a second source, and I'm going to move them both over here. I'm going to move them on top of each other and turn this down. Okay, so with them being right next to each other and 100% synced up, though it looks the same as when we had a single source. But a problem might start to happen if I separate them a little bit. First, we don't see much change. Okay, now as I separate them higher, we start to see there seems to be summation going this way. And, you know, it looks like we're getting a cancel going this way. And so something to do with this displacement is causing that because they were okay before. And I think that's because while they're arriving in time over here, this way and this way, like same distance, over here, this one left, and then this one left, but they're out of time, right? So there's something going on there. And if I change this distance even more, the pattern will change. And so now we see another pattern here where now we're getting some valleys here and we are getting some alleys here and a valley here. Sorry, I'm not being consistent with the colors. And I could keep moving these guys and we would continue to see these patterns change. So I just wanted to show you this to start off with, not making any conclusions yet or anything like that. I just think it's cool to look at this ripple tank and see how these synchronized sources create a different pattern if you separate them like that. So let's compare that to a room. So this is a section view of a room. We've got a stage here. We've got an audience that I drew in here. And now let's put in a couple of speakers. So here's a sub, and similar to the ripple tank, if we do a prediction of the sub and just look at a single frequency here, well, not a single frequency, we're looking at a small range of frequencies. There's some similarities we see here. It's sort of like rippling out like the tank, right? Like we can't see the pressure variations, but we can see it like getting quieter, and it's just like this perfect circle, and it's beautiful. Okay. Now, what happens if I add a speaker on top of it? This is a typical installation, right? We might have a sub here and then a pole and then a speaker on top of that. And now if we turn these both on together and we know that they're both kind of playing in the same range, now we see the coverage change a little bit. We're starting to see, let me get a different color. We're starting to see some summation go this way, and we're starting to see a little bit of cancellation going this way. And let's continue just like we did in the ripple tank. And I'll put a speaker a little bit higher. So we got a higher stand, maybe our budget got a little bit higher. So same speaker, just up a little bit taller. And now we'll do the same prediction. And now we see the coverage pattern has changed even more. And just like in the ripple tank, these patterns have changed here. So now we have cancellation here. But we still have summation here, so I'm fine with this, right? Like we have summation through our audience. They're getting the sound. Great, I'm happy, no worries. So you can probably guess where this is going. We got some rigging. This is great. We got our speakers in the air, which, by the way, this is always what audio engineers want to do. And as we get into the business, we stop complaining about it. But this is where we would always prefer, like, who wants to put their projectors and their lights on the ground? Nobody. Same thing for speakers. Speakers always want to be the same place that projectors want to be, which is right in the center of the audience they're trying to cover. Cool, so let's look at a prediction. Okay, now we have a little bit of a problem, right? So now we have summation, but it's going over the heads of the audience, and now we have some cancellation here. So this doesn't help us very much. I have a couple more examples to show you. Let's look at, okay, remember we had a speaker here. What if, instead of having two speakers that are of the same generation pretty much, around the same age, I think, we have a speaker that's a little bit older model, but in the same place. And now this is kind of what manufacturers don't want you to do, right? They would like you to buy two speakers that are designed to play together, and then they should work and sound good out of the box, especially if you keep them within 6 feet of each other. Not so with this pair though. Like, obviously things changed in the years that the newer model was produced, and now we have this big problem, which is that, again, well, we've got the action all going up here, and we don't have any people up there. Okay, I have one more thing to show you here. The same thing is going to happen, you know, you can take this idea and scale it out to any size, right? And the more complex it gets, the more complex these patterns are going to get. So here again, you see we have a displacement problem that, you know, we're getting some cancellation into the audience. Okay, but you're looking at this and you are thinking, okay, I see a lot of pictures, but none of these things really mean anything to me because I'm not used to seeing these kinds of pictures. Now, I may need to reshare my screen again because I'm not sure if I click the audience thing. So give me a second. Not the audience thing, but the audio thing, share computer audio. Okay. So I'm going to play this clip and not talk, and then I'm going to explain it to you and then play it again. So interrupt me if you don't hear my audio after this starts playing. Okay, so some of that was subtle and some of it was obvious. So the beginning is a sine wave at 72 hertz, and I have a crossover set up to be aligned and then misaligned. So you hear the sine wave completely disappear when it becomes misaligned, and you hear a little bump when it becomes aligned because there's actually like a little sum there. It's not a unity crossover. And then you hear a chromatic scale on a piano, and you don't hear that disappear because it's not just a sine wave, right? So even though its fundamentals are around that area, you still hear all their harmonics and stuff like that. And so this is a bigger problem for maybe things like, I don't know, an electric bass or a synthesizer that might just be all on that low end, or things like a kick drum. But what I hear in the piano is that you hear a lot of the body drop away. So I'll let you hear it again now that you know what's happening. But as you're watching the screen, those EQs, you're hearing the filters, you're seeing the filters change. So let me play that one more time. So let me know if you guys would like me to do some more demos like this in the future. I just threw this together really quick, and then I put it on YouTube, and immediately people had questions. And I was like, oh, so this is actually pretty good ear training to like, you could do a bunch of examples of just like music tracks, drums, speech, whatever, and sort of train yourself to kind of hear this problem. So maybe if it was a subwoofer alignment problem, it's hard to hear the difference between an EQ problem and an alignment problem, but at least you would know that that's an option.
I thought it was great, and actually, I'm actually really impressed that we were able to hear that 72 hertz on Zoom. If not everybody was able to hear it, if you're on like computer speakers or small earbuds, you might not have got it, but it actually did. It came through. I have a pretty good listening setup here, but I was able to hear it. So no, that was definitely a cool thing. But maybe a suggestion for moving forward is, because many people are watching these things on computer speakers, do another one that's up higher. Zoom does some pretty bad filtering sometimes, so I'm actually surprised we heard that. So
sure,
but yeah, stoked that we did. Really stoked that we did. Really cool demo. The geek in me is like this. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and also I think shows you how easy it could be to screw this up. Like
Yes,
the filters that I use there, it's really hard to see the numbers, but they're two really common filters, and yeah, it would be easy to put the wrong ones in and not know that you were creating a problem. So go ahead.
Sorry, and I just want to rewind and take a few minutes on this. As a non-audio guy, I'm seeing these crossovers between video and audio here, especially when you did the first one with the kind of the waves coming out, and it was an instant visualization for me to understand. Okay, you're aligning this like I would align a stacked projectors, right? When I'm doing my grid patterns, I'm setting that up and I'm lining my two projectors to be one over another to do pixel perfect matching. You're doing the same thing with audio, and when those are off, same thing as in video. When you do things incorrectly, or you do warping that. There's patterns in the image that get distorted because of that. It's the same thing in audio. So that for me was awesome. The part that Ed's geeking out about, I'm hearing this because I have earphones in, but I'm not understanding what I'm seeing. So there's I guess 3 different tones we heard, right? Unless I'm wrong. Those different sounds though, what am I listening to exactly with those sounds? Like what is it I was supposed to be tuning into to understand?
Sure. So with the sine wave, you're just hearing it completely disappear. That was the most obvious.
So 75. Sorry. So 75 is the same exact sound, but because they're misaligned, it sounded different than the first one's the original one, what it should sound like. The second one is what it sounds like when it's correct, and the third one was not when it was correct. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. So there's only 2, and it always goes aligned and then misaligned.
Okay.
And you can't see because I'm standing in front of it, but over here, see that sine wave is always playing.
Okay.
It's always playing. And so if you could see that, you would see that it goes from we hear it and then we don't hear it. So why aren't we hearing it? It still should be playing. And that's just because of the misalignment, because of the filters that I put in that are screwing everything up.
Got it. So then that first one we hear with the pianos, is what you're saying, was like that. That's when you're referring to like you hear the full body of it. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, the tone changed, the tonality of it changed, or the harmonics changed a little bit. That's because of the sine wave or because of the misalignment.
Exactly. Yeah, you should hear the low end drop out. It just has less body. And if you didn't know that was a problem, then you would probably just turn up the EQ, and you would be turning up and turning it up because it's hard. You can't fix a cancellation.
So for me, the one thing that's really putting the line, and it probably sounds ridiculous, but I have a lot of audio engineer friends who have said this to me, but now like it really is, it's clicked that they have one song that they tune the rooms to because they really know what it's supposed to sound like, and they can tune to that room, to that track or that song that they know very, very well. This right here makes total sense because they know what everything should sound like within that track. So they would just to play that instead of playing, white noise or whatever the other thing is, they can play this track and tune it to get it to as close to what it's supposed to sound like so that we hear what we want to be. So like that was awesome. Thank you for breaking that down for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. This would be a much better demo if I had everyone's favorite, most well-known track and I could just play that for you. And then like you would immediately hear like, oh, the low end is missing.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I would
we-
say because we wouldn't get copyright struck for it if you did Star Spangled Banner or something like that. It would do. You would be able to hear the oculation, and we couldn't get banned for that because it's fair use.
Good idea.
So I got some questions on the Zoom side as of now. I don't know if you want to dive into those, Ed.
Sure.
We want to hold off?
Oh, let me show you one more thing,
Yeah, for sure.
and I'll wrap up this section on like what is subalignment. So, you mentioned aligning two projectors, and I totally forgot that sometimes you play two projectors on top of each other. To what is one backup, or you just want to get brighter intensity?
Converging is we would make them brighter. So
Okay.
Well,
So-
both. It's both. The ones it's depending what side of the side you're on. If you're the technical side, it's because you want to get them brighter. So you take a 10K, you theoretically get 20K out of it, more like 18K depending on the lamps. But you can combine two to get more output out of it. On the sales side, you can sell it as hey, I give you a primary and a backup. If one fails, you still have an image at least. The lumens will go down, but at least the image is still there. So it's a double-edged thing. Like it's for a brighter image, better quality. So instead of getting a 20K projector, you get two 10Ks and get close to the same luminance. And then if anything happens to power at some point, each one is put on a different leg. And then you have the ability to say, okay, well, one went down and not the other one. So we're still good.
And then if they're misaligned, is it just that it's going to look a little bit out of focus and the brightness won't be right?
So it depends. No, the brightness would be the same essentially. It'd be out of focus a little bit. The pixels would be off here or there. The more off it is, if it's close, it'll be a little fuzzy. If it's perfectly, obviously it'll be all focus. The more off it is, the more blurred it'll look or distorted. If you're doing any kind of let's say blending of projectors with the convergence, that's when it gets a little more tricky because you got to match four of them at the middle, and then. Which your graph was showing kind of like what we call a lumen curve, right? So these two things interact like this.
Yes.
If you do it digitally, and I'm sure audio has a similar scenario. If you do it digitally, you're doing digital pixels, so you're not really getting rid of the double lumens or the four lumens hitting each other. So it's like you have two that look the same, and then it's one hot spot. And if you do it digitally, you're taking away a gradient that isn't real. If you do it on the projector side, the internal DOP chips. What those are doing is it's doing, let's say the outer one's 100%, the one that's all the way to zero be at zero, and those mirrors are actually changing the angles. So you're getting a true 100% brightness to a 0% brightness. And that's the way you prefer to do it, because then it looks cleaner and you get an actual gradient between that. And if you do, let's say minimum, me personally, I think Brent might agree with this, 600 pixel overlap gets you the best blend when you're doing these types of things. So for us, it's more brightness, it's more stuff, but you get some problems when you do it that way. And then if you do any kind of warping or anything, because let's say whatever scenario, and I'm sure audio runs into this stuff all the time. If I can't get straight on the screens, if I have to be off a little bit, I got to do any kind of warping, that distorts stuff within the horizontal and vertical pixel counts, which makes it and it gives me another problem, which could be either again focusing or a distortion of the image that you just can't correct because you've had to warp so much. You're literally physically, same thing like a sound wave, right? Those pixels now are being manipulated outward to be shifted around to make that warp work for the corner that you've tried to warp it into. And the more you do this, the more all those pixels and all those horizontal verticals get kind of screwed up. And you just have images that look kind of soft, or they look a little bit out of focus, and you can't really get them in. And it's because the pixel's been so distorted internally on the chip side that you just can't. So it's why a lot of the quicker and higher end projector guys, they are, I don't know what the right word is, but they're all about keeping the geometry or keeping the optics as pure as possible. No warping, no distortions,
Absolutely.
getting it straight on. Don't do any of the internal graphic stuff. Just straight alignments, straight within the projector, straight optics. Adjust the projector as much as you can. Try not to lens shift too much, because everything affects it. Like in audio, like you just showed us, our lenses. If you don't get a prime lens, which is a flat lens, it gives you a good option. But if some of these lenses we get they have the dome on them, right? And what happens to the corners of this box now is that dome is gonna bevel them out a little bit. So now my corners will be got a smiley at the bottom and a smiley at the bottom and a frown face at the top. And it's because of the lens itself. And there's ways to correct for that internally. But again, the more you do that, the more it's going to look out. So the higher your lens shift is, or the lower it is, it causes that that curvature of the final product, that straight line you want, to be more warped out, and it's more you got to do to correct it. So Sorry, I went into a tangent there. I didn't mean to take away.
No, that's interesting. And I'll have a better demo next time talking about the lumen curve. I was trying to think of how I could share this. And I was thinking about, somehow making two projectors work together. And so I was thinking, like, if you had, this array of visible light, and then for some reason, one projector was only going to do part of it, and another projector was going to do the other part. And then you had this stuff in the middle that they had to, cooperate with. And then somehow that was not aligned properly, and you were missing all of the yellow pixels, then you might have an image like this, and then you're mixing all the yellow. And it's like, we can still tell what the image is, but it's not going to be a great experience,
Correct. No, and that's a perfect example.
You like that?
Yeah, that's great.
With light, though, it would go in the other direction. You'd get more yellow.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Generally, sorry.
So that was kind of everything. I think. Well, let me say one more thing about what subalignment is. I've started to kind of think about it in terms of. Actually, let me say this next. So go ahead and ask your questions, Lamar.
Yeah. So the first one we got is from, and man, I'm horrible with names. I'm so sorry, everybody. Martin Demchiv. How did you manage the secret balance? I'm sorry. How did you manage this spectral balance and the alignment for the front middle rows in the church, considering the distance offset between main sub audience and different points of the listening area?
Yeah, I didn't design that, and I didn't say anything to them about the design. So I'm sorry, I don't have any information for you about that particular part of the design. I really just showed up, helped with the crossover alignment, got some data, and we did the A/B test, and that was it.
Got it. Then we got 3 here. So Randy is asking, how do you control the sound spectrum of the sub and speakers, especially from the limited room altitude to eliminate feedback? I can read that again if you need me to. How do you control the sound spectrum of the sub and speakers, especially from a limited room altitude to eliminate feedback?
I don't know if I have a great answer for that. I mean, I think if you're asking about microphone feedback in relationship to anything that a sub would play, usually it's just high pass filter on microphones. So I don't know if anyone else has a better answer for that. I'm not totally clear on the question.
I'll put it as answered. And if Randy, if you want to post another one that kind of elaborates a little bit more, we'll come back to it. So another one in here from Randy again. What is the average reduction percentage of sound transfer through crowds? Example, 50 persons. And how do you eliminate echo other than readjusting of speakers?
So the first question, I don't know. I do know that there has been some research into how much reduction human bodies have on low frequencies passing through them. But I don't have that information. My understanding is that below a certain frequency, it basically just keeps going. And then there's some frequencies where it can really act like absorbers. And the second question about, what was it about AIM? Say the second part again.
So the example was 50%, through crowds, examples, 50 persons, and how to eliminate echo other than readjusting of speakers.
How to eliminate echo. Yeah, I guess that would depend on the boundary, but yeah, I don't know another way to do it besides AIM. Eliminate echo, except, I mean, there are some little tricks where you can use different kinds of gates or envelope modifiers on your microphones. There's that one, the Portico from Neve, right? Where you can just basically turn it on and it just sort of helps control the envelope afterwards and reduce some of the echo or some of the reverb a little bit.
Are you talking about the primary source enhancer?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I've used that a number of times, and it's very useful in certain situations. For example, we were in a tent, and we did our sound check and tuning before they actually cut the holes in the side of the tent for the air. And I used that plug-in on the microphone inputs, mostly headset mics, and somehow it listens and is able to tell the difference between background noise and the primary source being the voice. And it can actually reduce the level of the background noise. And it's a plugin. This is one signal we're talking about here. We're not talking about like combining things. And it worked so well that I actually dialed a little bit of the background noise back in because it sounded a little too dead for the records. It works very well in certain situations.
Cool. Yeah. And in terms of input processing, there's also gain sharing, auto mixing, things like the Dugan mixers that we have in a lot of mixers now. But on the output side, I only know of aim and, of course, acoustic modifications, put things on the walls so that they are absorbing and not reflecting.
So, and then the last one I got here, and I have a couple from Facebook Land as well we can get to.
You know what? Let me say one more thing about that. So yes, aim in terms of high frequencies, but then we have directional tools like directional subarrays, and we can do things with other types of arrays to try and get the low frequencies to be more directional. But I don't know if that's what he was asking about. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No. So in reference to that, someone, Albert on Facebook is saying, is a question about slapback. Could that be what he's maybe asking?
Yeah, he could be. I mean, that's an echo. Yeah.
Okay. And Jay Clark had said, sorry, I'm trying to look for it real quick. Yeah, don't route a mic to a sub.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure.
That was awesome. And then the last one here, or Eddie, did you want to say that last one?
Well, no. So the Jay Clark's comment about not routing a mic to a sub spurred some conversation of kick with a question mark, miking bass with a question mark. So there are times where mics are going to end up in subs. But Jay Clark also, to what Nathan was just discussing as far as directional subwoofers, he asked if we're going to discuss gradient or end fire. So, or I guess for that matter, cardioid, there's tons of different types of directional low frequency techniques that can be implemented.
Is that a mic question?
No.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
On topic. Yeah, we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I would also draw your attention to a recent podcast that I published called Nathan and Raj's 5-hour discussion on in-fire versus gradient.
I want to just add one thing to the question about echo, which I think is really important, is instead of having a big stereo system, having a distributed PA, getting speakers closer to the listener so you don't have to turn up speakers as loud and overexcite the room is a very good technique as well. I would put that in your aim category. It's not just aiming what speakers you have, it might be adding more speakers closer to the listener.
I like that. That was good. I got that. So the last one we have on here, and then I have one that I want to bounce out there just to be that guy. How do you deal with frequency interference, especially when someone has a cell phone close to your speaker boxes, example, limited to a small auditorium? And again, that's the last one we have from Randy.
Someone else should answer that. I've never had that problem. I've heard that you're supposed to ask presenters to turn off their cell phones and put them in their pockets, but I have not heard a cell phone interference problem since I was in college.
It doesn't seem to be a thing with the newer cell phones. It used to always happen with Blackberries all the time, and UHF microphones. But with the new digital stuff, I haven't heard it in forever either.
Yeah, I think it's a 3G thing, I think. Not a 4 or 5G thing.
So, but are we talking about interference, like an RF interference with the microphones, or like it was causing an actual, it was picking up the signals?
I'm pretty sure it was an RF interference because all you heard was tick, 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 tick on the microphone.
Okay.
Sometimes you hear it come through on Fostexes as well, backstage monitors.
It's even happened to me early on with 3G. My phone was near my analog Mackie mixer. It bled into there, but it also can bleed into wireless microphone transmitters as well if it's if the 3G signal can get in there.
Blackberries were probably infamous for it because of the fact that they did have a radio frequency antenna in them for the old Nextel towers. So they were emitting a radio signal out constantly in order to grab any incoming transmissions. So it could have been, that's why the Blackberries were notorious for it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, buddy.
Yeah, so that's all I've got in Zoom land and Facebook land as of now. I know Ed had mentioned, well, we discussed gradient or end fire. What was? I'm sorry, I just missed the answer on that.
Oh, the answer is we can talk about whatever you want.
Got it.
And I mentioned that I just published a podcast episode where we talk about it a bunch. But yeah, whatever. I'm happy to answer whatever questions people have.
So yeah, before we get into a huge Q&A, then did you have more you wanted to present before we get into that?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody's okay with it, I'd rather keep moving forward.
All right, well, we did get one question real quick on Facebook that we'll touch on before he jumps over. It says, can you briefly discuss crossover slopes and how they relate to subalignment?
Yes, you have various you have various crossover slopes, various crossover topologies, and many of them come pre-baked into your speakers, and you can implement more of them in your output processing. And so it's just good to do that with care and caution and know what you're doing. So in the example that I gave previously, what we could see happening in this video is switching between a Linkwitz-Riley 24 dB per octave fourth order filter and a Linkwitz-Riley 12 dB per octave second order filter. And the second order filter needs a polarity inversion in one of the channels, for example. So I have a big list of kind of cheat sheet of all of the filter combinations, if that's something that whoever's asking the question is interested in. And I don't think I have it in front of me, but if you want to email me later, or I can put it up in the comments on this video later. So that's just like, I'm trying to guess kind of what you want to know about filters. I hope that helps a little bit. Let me know if there's something more specific or something else I can say.
I think maybe for people who don't understand crossovers, it's maybe we can talk about what exactly is happening with a crossover, how that separation of frequencies, and that it's not, if you have a crossover that's set at 100 hertz, it's not a straight sliding slope and nothing below 100 passes or above 100. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit before we move on, just to catch everybody up.
Sure. Well, that's kind of the situation that we see here, right? There's this area of joint custody where the subwoofer and the full range speaker are working in tandem, right? And this is also the demo I was trying to give here, like this, where'd it go? In this area, like imagine two projectors that need to both share the custody of yellow for some reason. Yeah, so that's kind of what's happening. That's kind of what's happening. There's almost never a situation where, well, there's never a situation where there's a brick wall filter and it stops at one frequency and the subwoofer picks up and keeps going. They're always cooperating, even if it's just for a tiny range.
Right, and that that dip where those two meet, that's exactly right there. That exists so that when the two systems sum, because they're both putting out the same frequency at that point, are going to equal or should equal a flat response like the rest of that curve if you look on either side of the crossover point, correct?
Well, that's a potentially a creative or technical choice. There are various field topologies that will result in a 3 dB sum. There are some like this one that will result in a unity class crossover 0 dB sum. And you could even set it up so that you get a minus 3 dB sum. And these are different ways that speaker manufacturers can create a result, or even potentially you as the user could create a different kind of result. But yes, I would say most of the time we're just looking to do a really simple sum so that we put in this thing and then we can look at it and we get 0 or a flat line or something like that. That's the most common.
Great, thank you. Now, Can you maybe tell us what, people tend to like having a lot of low end at maybe a rock concert where maybe they don't at other types of events. And aux fed subs is a thing. How does doing something like that where you boost the bass after the system's been tuned changed maybe your crossover point or affect these kinds of things?
I guess it depends on how you implement it. If you implement it so that it affects both the sub and the full range speaker that you've already aligned in an equal way, then nothing changes. But if you implement it so that you're only changing maybe the sub and not the full range speaker, then your acoustic crossover shifts up, right? And so in this case right here, we see that they're matching. But if you were to turn this up, and we can look at a more detailed demo of that if you'd like, but if you turn this up, now this point isn't going to be here anymore because this whole thing is shifted up. Now it's going to be up here somewhere. And so we just change the area that we need to look at. So when you're doing your alignments, oftentimes you won't just look at a single frequency or even the region that is currently affected, but you'd like to know the entire region where we are in alignment so that we know how much can we turn the subwoofer up later when inevitably the mix engineer or someone asks us to. And so we know, okay, I know I have like 5 dB of headroom with this alignment. And so that's what I can give them safely, just adjusting the sub on its own.
Cool, great. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk about that.
Sure, and if any of these you want me to get into further, we can look at more demos. Otherwise, I'll continue with the content. But you guys help me decide if this is like a hot topic that you want to look at some measurements or some demos of. We can do that.
No, I want to hear what you have prepared for us. Like I said, I follow it a bit, so I'm definitely interested. So please take it away.
All right, well, let's talk about money for a little bit then. I think a lot of people understand kind of this idea of dollars to dB, dB to dollars. Am I getting my money's worth? So I've started thinking about subwoofer alignment in terms of ROI recently. Am I getting the value that I paid for or that my client paid for? So if I just throw some ballpark numbers up here for that Nexo system that we started with at the beginning, and just really basic, I'm not counting cables or console or anything else, just speakers and maybe the amp that they use. I don't even know. Yeah, I think that's the amp they use. Anyway, and then if we say, if we divide the entire audible range up into about 9 octaves, and we say in general, the crossover is going to cover about an octave. So we divide that whole number by 9 and we get about $6,000. So we can say, this is worth $6,000. This problem is worth $6,000. And it's just, I think, an interesting thing to look at when you're trying to decide how important this thing is. Because so often, as Omar mentioned, and even as Andy mentioned at the very top, I think we kind of just default to either skipping this or somehow logicking it away and saying like, no one's going to hear it or it doesn't matter or whatever. And it matters this much. It's not the most important thing compared to like making sure that the speakers are turned on and working without distortion, but it's also not the least important thing. So just trying to like put it in perspective there. So kind of the next big topic for me is, does sub alignment matter? Well, we've heard some people already mention in favor of it. And again, just to try and continue to put it in context a little bit, I think it matters as much as anything else does that goes into creating a really great experience for the audience, right? And you guys all know that includes every aspect of just the experience there, the temperature of the room, the mood that people are in because of the food, like all these things that we don't have control over. And I just want to mention that because I think it's common for people to think maybe, well, audience members only ever complain about things like not being able to hear the vocal, or I can't understand what the presenter is saying. But an audience member is never going to come up to you and say, I think there's a problem with the crossover alignment. So why care about it? And I got this quote from Bodo Felush, who presented at this year's Live Sound Summit. He did this really great hour and a half long presentation just all about what qualities people care about. Like, how good does the sound level need to be before, or how bad does it need to be before people notice or complain, and what things do people complain about? And so I like here that he says a good system alignment can make the customer feel better and listen to the show more carefully without knowing why. So you think about like a sound system that might have a bit of distortion that maybe is not quite audible, but maybe is fatiguing on the ears. And if you're in a all day, presentation all day long, it might be making people like tired and annoyed, and then they want to leave the room, that kind of thing. And the other quote that I have that I just really like from Nathan Short is that when the sound is right and there's no distortion, people stay for 2 more drinks. And after 2 years, you've paid for the sound system. So he does a lot of like club installs and dance clubs and bars and stuff. And he just noticed over the years that if they could get things working well, that people stuck around longer. So again, no one is saying that crossover alignment, Ed took care of that real good. They're saying, oh, it feels good in here. Like, I want to stick around and have a good time. So I'd like to hear from you guys again. Like, what are some things that you've tried to solve this problem? What's some ways that you've done that you feel like work well for you? Maybe what's a way that you've tried to solve this problem that didn't work so well?
So I just wanted to back up real quick. Something you had said in the previous slide here had me thinking, when you guys are doing your alignments, are there things that affect you that are outside of your control? Like, for example, for me, when I'm doing, let's say like I'm doing a widescreen projection blend, I constantly run into an issue where my leads may know this, the client may not understand this, and I bring it up as, hey, I need to know the schedule for the AC. It needs to either be on the whole time or off, and I need to know if the doors are going to seal the room or not, because it'll cause the screens to move. And they kind of never understand me until it starts happening, and the blends start coming off because the screen is fluctuating based on the pressure of the room, or because the AC got kicked on and it's like right above my screen. Do you guys ever run into problems like that similarly with audio, with things in the ballroom that just aren't necessarily in your control?
You mean when they start vacuuming when it's time to tune the room?
That's an example, yeah. Like
that's Murphy's Law.
Yeah. But other things, like does the can you tune a room one way and then the AC comes on and it kind of messes up your alignment somehow because it's over a speaker and it messes up the way it should be sounding? Is that a thing that you guys have to deal with in the audio world, like with video guys?
Sometimes, yes. I mean, I've had people complain there's a hum in my audio, and you turn around and go, that's the air conditioner, or I can't get rid of that hum. No.
Gotcha. All right, so you guys run into little things that are not exactly, directly your issues, but become your issues.
In a ballroom, there will be someone carrying like a tray full of dishes through the back hallway, and then someone will come up to you and say, hey, can you get rid of that hum? Similar with HVAC noise, but really the toughest things are when they just change the audience at the last minute, and you've done like all this work to like finally align the speaker and aim it in this and then tune it in this, and they're like, okay, we just put a bunch of people over there, and you're like, well, I don't have anything for them. And so then you just got to figure it out in the last minute. That for me, that's some of the toughest stuff.
Oh yeah, it goes by 3 feet.
Yeah, no, that's what I never thought about. We have the same thing of viewing angles with the screens and stuff in video world. Like, hey, if they're out of this range, they're not going to see as well. Well, we got to put people over here. I was like, okay, well, they're not going to see. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just on a show where I said, is anyone going to be sitting in this area? Because I have to put speakers here if they're not. And they're like, definitely not. And I asked like 2 or 3 times. And then, of course, like right before the show started, people are rushing the stage and they're putting out chairs. And I'm like, I just can't. Like, we have like a couple of minutes. And it didn't happen. And then the other main thing would be mainly only if you're outside, but fluctuations in ambient conditions can change things, especially if you're right on the edge. I have a story I think about all the time where I was working on a show outside that was near, it doesn't really matter, but the thing was, it was like kind of on the verge of feedback. And then I muted everything, went to dinner and came back, and it was like colder and more humid, I think. And then I turned everything back on and just started like feeding back like crazy.
Got you. So I just want to bring attention to everybody in Facebook land and the Zoom side right now. We're slightly past that hour mark. We've had tons of questions coming in at the beginning of here and the middle. Nathan, I want to thank you so much. You're doing a great job presenting this stuff and doing these pauses for everybody to ask questions. I want to encourage you guys. This is one of the rare times where the presenters actually, we're not having to take away from the presentation by stopping them, and they're stopping to let us ask questions. I'd like to take advantage of that, and so Nathan can do his presentation and stop when he needs to. So if you guys have questions you want to ask now before we continue moving forward, please ask them. I would like to respect the way he's doing this presentation and give him the courtesy to say, okay, once he starts up, let him finish to get to that stop point, because he is doing these frequently. And I think that's awesome and amazing, because we should totally tell our guys to do that, because we don't do that. But thank you, Nathan. I really love the way you're doing this presentation. It's flowing very well. I just want the community to know that, we have another hour left over. We got tons of great stuff to review with you guys. Please take the chances while he's pausing to ask these questions, or not. Let me know in the comments. Move forward. Let's keep going. You want to keep hearing more about sub-alignments. So I got some nods saying, yeah, keep going with the sub-alignments.
Yeah, and does anyone want to say anything about things that they've tried with sub-alignment that worked for them or didn't work for them? Because that's kind of what's going to, if no one has anything to say, I'll just pick something. But if you've tried something or haven't tried something, then that's kind of the next direction I'm going to go in terms of this adventure.
It wasn't me, but I had my audio guy. We had, they were DV subs, so they're a cardioid sub, I believe. And he had 3 of them right in front of the video position, because of course we're backstage right behind the screen. And he set them up with 2 facing forward and then 1 in the middle facing me. And that really didn't work at all for him, because I think I had more bass than the rest of the audience.
And you feel like that was an alignment problem or just a design problem?
I think it was a system design problem, but I'm sure an alignment thing could have helped it, because they say there's a theory where you can do that if you turn a cardioid sub backwards, or I've seen it a few times. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's an inverted gradient.
Video.
That may have been an inverted gradient stack in landscape mode, right? But even if it's working efficiently and you're getting a lot of attenuation in the rear, it's not complete cancellation. So if you're sitting right back there, it's going to be loud. Now for the people in front, it's going to be good. And if you're like maybe 20, 30, 40 feet back, it'll be better. But if you're right behind it, it's still going to be loud. And you can calibrate it so that, at a certain distance is actually where its maximum attenuation is. And so it's hard for me to know how that was calibrated. But those are some questions to consider. Like there's no way that it's going to be completely quiet back there. So yeah, you don't want to be right behind it, or I guess you want to be okay with that. Andy Lipnick and I did a subarray one time where it was not a directional array, but I had this great idea for how I was going to put the subs up out of the way, basically behind the DJ, I think. And it didn't work at all. They were so loud. The DJ hated it. And it was just totally imbalanced. So we had to change it all around. But yeah, that happens.
And I had never thought I'd hear a DJ say there was too much bass.
So Nathan, yeah. I want to ask, or anybody in the community really, or on the Zoom side or in the community, what exactly would you say is the difference between, Brent, I apologize if I butchered the verbiage again, but room design versus alignments? Like what exactly would be that difference when it comes to setting up? Because I'm thinking maybe too small of a scale, but if I'm doing a breakout room, if I don't put the speakers in the right place, I might get feedback. I might be causing myself some initial feedback because of where I put them. Too close to a microphone, or too far back, or if I put the speakers in front of them or behind them instead of in front of them, I might get issues. When I'm in a ballroom, it's a little bit different because hopefully I'm flying stuff or things like that. But as a non-audio guy, what would be some of the differences between, let's say, and Brent, I'm sorry, help me out with the verbiage here, sub-alignment or designing of the speaker placements? Does that make sense? What's the difference between the two? There's a correlation between the two, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to jump in?
Yes. Anybody, please.
Yeah. So So there's a priority of steps, right? So design always comes first, and you can't fix a bad design with calibration. So all you can do is improve upon it. And that's the first thing we always talk about in any kind of class is, everybody wants to do the fun part, which is like playing with the audio analyzer and like putting in settings and playing with the EQ and stuff. But if it's already ugly, you can't fix it. So in terms of priorities, that's a big thing to consider.
Got it. So again, I'm going to ask all the dumb questions because I'm not an audio guy. But anyways, I think we're at a good point right now. You've had one come in. It says, flying the subs at the top of the array seems to work best and mix in stereo. And this from Philip Altenberg.
Cool. That sounds like a statement. I love it.
Yeah. So I think we're good on Facebook land. We look pretty good on Zoom. I think we can carry forward.
Okay. Okay.
Andreas has a question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Andreas.
So, two things. Yes, the design, Omar. But just like you said, you can't fix it. If you put a line array for a small breakout, doesn't matter what you're gonna do or what you can do, it's still not gonna work. Or, for example, for the temperatures changes, for example, if you are in an arena and you don't plan for the temperature change of the crowd, it could throw all your EQing out. That could hurt you more than help you.
Oh, got it. So going from like a cold temperature and then it warming up, if you did that incorrectly, that could cause the sound to change.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's well, I'm from Florida, so it's always hot here. But yeah, so I've never had to deal with that. Nathan, is that something you have to deal with where you're at?
No, I mean, most of the stuff I'm doing is inside. It is a consideration, and you do track your ambient conditions, and it's another reason to just like keep the audio analyzer going all the time so you can kind of see what's happening and try to figure out where the problem is. But yeah, most of the stuff I do is inside at this point.
Have you ever had any issues where when you're flying stuff, rigging your speakers, and let's say it snows really heavy, whatever, and that weight has changed on the roof, you have to change your design on the fly? Has that ever happened?
Oh wow, no, I never thought about that. Yeah, snow on the roof, changing the rigging. I like where your mind goes, but no. I've never...
Yeah, so when I went to your hometown to do a show when we first met, we were doing, and this time we had a bunch of projectors to hang and screens and everything. We had to have a guy come back out and redo the rigging because it had snowed so much that the weights were different for the roof. So we ended up having to put the screens actually on the ground at that point because it wouldn't handle the weights. So the screens were on the ground. We had the projectors lowered so that we'd still match up and could still fly them essentially. But we decided to put the screens down in order to make weight because it had snowed so much that the roof now had the pressure of the snow as well as our rig on it.
No, that's super interesting. I never thought about that. So I've been here for 3 years, so I'm sure I'm going to run into that at some point. I mean, the only common thing I've run into is that like you expect to be able to fly the speakers this high with this kind of rigging or lift or whatever you have, and then you show up, and because of the wind, it's like, oh no, it's only going to do this high, and you're like, you got to change your design at the last minute.
Got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
So because we
did have one question that Albert had asked. What position in the audience do you pick for delay calc? So when you're doing your calculations and I guess your measurements, how do you determine where you're going to put the microphone to take those measurements?
Sure, and he says delay calc, but since we're talking about subwoofer alignment, I'm going to assume that he's talking about subwoofer alignment. So I would say in general, see the guide that I just published. It's like 38 pages long answering this question, and it looks at 4 different common scenarios. I will tell you guys that the shortcut for many scenarios for a lot of people is to place the mic at front of house. And we can get into a lot of, we can get into a conversation of when that works and doesn't work. And, especially in corporate events, there's lots of times where front of house is somewhere completely that's not in the audience. So then it doesn't work. But I don't know how much detail we should get into, but that's kind of the shortcut, I think, for most people in many conditions. But to answer your question more deeply, when that's not the solution, when it's not front of house, then it has to do with the geometry of the system design. And in that case, you want to choose a position that will result in the least number of errors through the audience. So you try to find this position in the audience where then it's aligned. And as you go into misalignment, as you move out and the system becomes more and more asymmetrical in whatever, it's either asymmetrically, vertically, or horizontally usually. I guess those are the only two choices. Then you got to look at choosing a microphone position that's going to give you your best shot at having those errors sort of spread out in an even way.
So I got one that I really want to bring up here from Scott R. Munsell. I just kind of want to see if anybody here can break this down a little bit for me and help me understand it a little bit better. This goes back to what Andres had said earlier and what you have already answered. He says, and I just lost it. That's not good. Oh, yeah. So hot air rises, and when it does, it can take your sound with it. What exactly is that referring to, and how does that work? How does the hot air rising affect it? And this is in reference also to what you said earlier with the guy who did the club installs. This is something I'm sure he has to deal with, because as the club gets packed and people are dancing and heating up, that hot air rises is going up. So how does that affect it when it comes to audio?
Yes, someone else can interrupt me if they have a better answer, but the common scenario is that you're doing an outdoor event, and as the night gets colder and you're in a cold place, the audience is hotter than the air above it. And so you get this problem where even if the sound is sort of coming down at an angle, it diffracts off of the audience, and then it ends up playing into the township next door, and then it's really loud over there, even though it should only be really loud right where your speakers are pointing. And so there's an aim consideration there to try and not have so much diffraction or, control that. But that's the most common scenario I'm familiar with.
So I was actually typing a reply when Omar just asked that question. Heat and humidity can affect how sound propagates through the air. Air density changes with temperature and humidity. The speed of sound changes with temperature and humidity. So hot air rising and taking your sound with it is not exactly how I think of it, but I think of it as the heat and humidity can just change how those sound waves actually are moving. It can wreak havoc on frequency response. If you've wrung out your monitors, for example, on a stage and the house was cool, and then you've put a ton of bodies in there that bring up the overall humidity and heat in that room, you may have to do some ringing on the fly if your talent's not on ears, if they're on wedges, and you may experience that because as you said earlier, Nathan, those environmental impacts are key, and I think that's kind of the crux of what that question and comment was about.
Well, it also changes how far sound travels. In radio, they call it atmospheric propagation, and how far your radio waves travel. So it's basically the same idea.
So crazy. The three of you have inadvertently described the way a bullet works with temperatures. Just so you guys know, I used to be a sniper in the military, weapons specialist. The exact same scenarios you're talking about is the exact same things that affect a bullet when it comes out of the round, or a bullet when it's coming out of the chamber of any weapon. Those exact things are what affects that round coming out there, not including obviously the gunpowder that's in there, but atmospheric temperature, the distance you're going through, all those things affect that bullet's trajectory once it leaves the round. Yeah. So crazy that I'm connecting the dots to what you guys are saying to something in my former past, but like everybody keeps saying, Nina says it. I think Scott said it on here. Physics, physics always wins.
Yeah, I think if there's Nathan, do you have anything else to say on this topic? Because we have another question that came in. If not,
no, go ahead.
Okay, great. So Sorry, now I have to find where I just put it. Jay Clark asked, if given the choice and you can only choose one, subs flown or on the ground?
Yeah, flown always.
Oh, I got it right.
So
Why?
Jay is interested in this. There's a paper that the Acoustics guys published recently where they sort of debunk this myth that you lose efficiency with flown subs because of the floor bounce. And it turns out that after a certain depth, those path length differences with the floor bounce make the floor bounce go up into areas that it doesn't matter as much anymore. And so most of the time, your flown subs are going to give you a more stable crossover and better front to back distance ratio.
I love it. So Nathan, I love everybody here. I'm sorry. Can we please move forward? I feel
Yeah,
like we're missing something.
What I thought is that what I would normally go into next is sort of the pitfalls, but since nobody said anything that they're actually doing, maybe I'll just skip that and take you to the solution that I've come up with. And then maybe some people will have some questions that will take us back to the pitfalls. Otherwise, I may just be covering a bunch of stuff that nobody can.
Yeah, I was actually earlier, somebody else kind of interrupted, but one of the things I remember from the days when I was bringing out my point source array, and at one point I had bought some folded horn subs. So I remember accounting for the distance of the horn, which on those particular subs was 9 feet, and then setting my delay for that so that they would align. I had my, the tops were just stacked on top of it. So that was one of the things. And one of the things I used to do before I had, a ton of processing was at my crossover frequencies, setting a sine wave and then flipping the polarity on either my tops or my bottoms and listening for them to cancel in some spot that I would pick. Typically it would be kind of in what I considered the prime listening area towards the front. These were a lot of heavy shows like metal and hardcore and stuff like that, where the punch of kick drum was kind of important, but also getting the attack right so it felt right and sounded right. So more in like the mosh pit area is where I would measure from and wait for that cancellation to happen, and that's how I would kind of delay my tops to my subs or vice versa.
So perfect. That is still one of the most common ways, and in older user manuals for some speakers that I remember reading, they recommend that. It hasn't worked for me, and that doesn't mean that it won't work for anybody else. You could probably practice it. So let me ask you, Ed, I'm sorry, before I jumped the gun, I should have asked, did it work well for you? Did you like it?
It made an improvement over not doing it. So things got punchier and sounded tight, especially with those folded horns, because the sub was already being delayed by 9 feet, so about 8 milliseconds. And then, so adding a little delay to the top definitely helped. So it did definitely make things a little punchier. Those folded horns kind of throw a distance, and that's why I don't have them anymore, because I needed more really a direct radiator for those kinds of shows. But it definitely gave me some improvement. But I didn't have smart or anything to measure what I was seeing. So
Sure.
all I could base it on was feel and how it sounded in those situations.
Yeah, and just to summarize, the method that Ed's talking about is that you would listen to a sine wave somewhere in the crossover region, hopefully, somewhere right in the middle, and you turn both your main and your sub on at the same time, and then you polarity invert one of them, and then when you find the right delay setting, you should hear the sine wave completely disappear, just like the video example we listened to earlier. You have misalignment, it completely disappears. You take that polarity inversion out, now you have alignment where before you had misalignment. The reason that this hasn't worked for me is because it is a single point solution. So in this video, you're going to see me try and do this. And so you see me measure a sine wave here. And you can see a point here at 100 hertz, and then here's the phase at 100 hertz. And you might say, oh, this is a line, so it's at 0, and this thing is happening here. But you're not seeing the time. So the problem with a single point solution of measuring just a sine wave is it could be any number of cycles out from the right solution. So here, once we see the arrivals, we see that it's actually delayed, I think, by 2 milliseconds. But I couldn't tell that just by listening to the sine wave at this one point, because the sine wave sounds exactly the same at 0, 360, 720. And anytime I've tried it in the field, I kind of can't tell. Like, I think it's in the right place, and then I keep going, and I keep going, and I get too far. And that doesn't even take into account the possibility that a polarity inversion might be better. So then you try the same thing with the polarity inversion, and you try to search for it. And so for me, it hasn't worked great. And again, probably works great for a lot of people, and if you practice at it. Cool. So unless there was another one, I'll probably just jump to the solution. And then, like, as I mentioned, we can jump back to sort of more pitfalls or things that I think are challenging or don't work.
I'm eager to hear a solution. So
cool.
I say let's go for it.
And I was happy to share this with you guys, because this is not just for audio engineers. It's not something even more complicated than all the things we've talked about today. Like, Ed was probably just mentioning things like polarity, sine waves, like, what does that mean? You know, Omar is like getting lost. He's probably looking at his phone now or whatever. And I think there is a simpler solution. So for me, I discovered this recently, this year, actually. And the overview is pretty simple, which is basically you need to create pre-alignment presets that then you can take action on in the field with a distance offset, basically a laser disto. And I heard about this from Merlin Van Veen about 3 years ago, and that inspired me to make the Zoid chatbot, which I think is still running today. But Merlin wasn't the first person to talk about it. If you look at the D&B, what is it called? Line array design manual. They talk about this geometric distance offset. If you look at the L-Acoustics preset guide, there's a bunch of pre-alignment values in the back. And I think it's just fun to look at these and see how similar they are. If you look at the first sentences, a correct time alignment of subwoofers to the main line array is very important. And he basically says the same thing in the first sentence here. This is very important. The difference with the L-Acoustics pre-alignment, preset guide is that afterwards, then it includes pages and pages of pre-alignment values. So anytime you have speaker A with speaker B, you just look at this grid and you can say, okay, here's the pre-alignment value. Now I take my geometric distance offset and I add those together. What does that mean? I can give a demo of that if you want, but really we're just trying to kind of jump to the solution here, which is this app that I've created called Subaligner, which incorporates this idea of having a bunch of pre-alignment values and incorporating the distance offset. So I think what I'll do is just demo that for you right now. So let's go back to this guy. Let's hide this. Let's look at our original sub, and let's look at this guy. And I think to make this a little bit more interesting, we'll change it to a speaker from a different generation. So this is the newer version. But we can go to a UPQ 1P. Again, all this stuff doesn't matter. Just take my word for it. This is an older generation speaker. And if we don't do anything and we turn them on together, then we have this problem, right? And again, we've got like this summation. There's no people up here. This isn't helping us. There's a few people down here. Okay, so let me see if I can switch screens here. Uh-oh, I'm getting a spinning pinwheel. Am I crashing?
We still hear you on our side.
Yeah.
Your video's lagging a little bit though. There we go. Now I see your background.
Interesting. So it may not like to do my phone, which is fine. We can just continue with the screen. So let me wait for the spinning pinwheel to stop. Oh, we see it. You guys see my phone, right?
Yes, we do.
Oh, cool. So, you know what? I think I'm going to skip the phone because that is acting a little herky-jerky for now. But I can open the exact same website on my computer. I just wanted to show you that it is kind of set up to be a mobile app. So here's what we're going to do. What I have here are some alignment points. Let's clear this. And I've already measured these out, so we can sort of pretend like we're doing a laser distance measure. It looks like the video is still lagging. Should I wait for it?
It definitely seems like it's lagging a little bit at the moment.
I'm not sure. I guess I can just keep going, and if it doesn't improve, I can sort of restart the share maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit laggy. Well, while you try to work that out, I'm just going to remind our viewers that we thank the DVE store for their continued support. They help us get our nice looking video, which I did forget to turn on in the beginning until halfway through. So if you noticed a jump in the quality, that was thanks to the DVE store at dvestore.com. So thank them for that help. And Nathan, if you need a sec to get your screen.
Yeah, I'm just getting the share set up again.
Cool, great. So while
I'll jump in there with a few comments I've been seeing on Facebook land. So Scott was saying helps the level match them first before the polarity flip makes it a bit easier to hear the cancellation. Jay Clark had said nothing. Nathan just jumped into my brain. Weird. Jeff was saying earlier, and when I was speaking, same type of conversation with pilots. Density, altitude is always a huge concern. Sean Michael Newman had said test, rinse, and repeat. Good ideas to keep spec sheets and notes of each location. Scott Armona said people equal hot bags of water.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that kind of catches up with those statements.
Great. And it looks like you got the share back up. So
Yay.
Perfect timing.
Okay, so here's the app. It's called Subaligner. It's super simple. I'm just going to put in my brand, model, wrong one, UPQ1P. And I'm going to skip this for now, but this is the DSP setting. There's only one for this particular speaker. These are just self-powered speakers that you guys are probably familiar with, working a lot in corporate events. You just plug them in, turn them on, and they just work, right? So I've taken my laser distance measure here, and I wrote this down so I remember what it is, 97.19 feet. And now I have a 750 LFC is the subwoofer model. I didn't tell you guys earlier. And it is 94.39 feet from this point that I've chosen as my alignment point. So this is going to generate an answer for us. This is the entire app, by the way. And this is what I wanted it to do, is just be super simple, just deliver answers. So this is telling us what to do. It's giving us a solution. I know there's a lot of people out there that know a lot about other ways that this could be done. And we can get into talking about that more as well. But the most basic solution that Subaligner will always give you is some combination of delay, polarity, and level. And so this is recommending that we delay the sub by 0.5 milliseconds and invert the polarity. So that's what I'm going to do. And before I do that, in case you forgot while I was fixing the screen share, here's what it looked like before. And I'm going to draw a big arrow here so we can see what's happening. So now I'm going to put that solution in. So here's my sub. This is the delay. This is the polarity inversion. And then it says turn down the sub by 1.22 dB. And we'll see our result. Make sure I didn't screw anything up. This should be 0. Okay, so there we go. So here's where the summation was before, and now it has moved down here, pointing at this microphone, which is what we wanted. And it's that simple. And I'll show you one more demo, and then we'll go into some more questions, or I'm sure people want to ask like how you can break this whole thing. Okay. This is another fun demo because if you take this particular array of speakers and combine it with this array of speakers and you don't do anything, then you might get something like this. And this is kind of a problem. As you can see, we've got, power valley going through our audience, which is not awesome. So we can go through the same process here. So I will start over and I'll choose my Meyer Sound Milo. And by the way, I'm just doing this all with Meyer Sound because this is kind of a good test environment, but there's a lot of different speakers in here. But in case you're wondering why I'm using Meyer Sound, like it's just easy to test with in their prediction environment. So we've got 6 of them this time, 48.87 feet. .650p is the sub. There's 2 of them. 47.74. This is going to generate another solution for us. Delay the sub by 4 milliseconds. Turn down the main by 11.17 dB. Let's go back here to our output processing. I've already turned down the main, and I need to delay the sub. And let's check our result. There we go. So now this place where we had cancellation before, now we have summation, and it's pointing at this alignment point that we have chosen. And there are a bunch of other features that we can look at in here that are great for audio-centric people, but I just wanted to present you with this sort of simple solution first. And I just want to ask Omar, like, is this something that even you could do if you were setting up audio? Like, this is kind of what I was hoping for.
So yes and no. I see what you're doing here, but my question is, what is the correlation here between the delay and turning down the mains? Is that because you're essentially, when you do your routing, you're sending your subs, you're sending an aux out to just your subs, so you're adjusting the 11.17 dB to that, and then you're delaying that single aux 4 milliseconds in order to to align with your line array at top. Is that what that correlation is, or am I thinking about that incorrectly?
Let me try and answer and see if this is what you wanted. Yes, you need at least 2 pieces of output processing, one for the Milo array, one for the sub. So you have control over the gain and the delay and the polarity of each of those. Perfect. Okay, yeah. So I'm following that. So then, if I had this app, assuming I know how to use the board correctly, then yeah, I could just plug in numbers and get the results I wanted with it, and I wouldn't need to be an audio guy. I need to be a fake guy. Which is good for me. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because many times at this point, I think we're doing a lot of output processing in the console, and delay and polarity are the common things that we all have, right? Most of our consoles at this point have at least enough output processing to do delay and polarity and level. Yeah, so that's kind of the simple solution. Yeah, no, I would obviously love to know other ways to do this, but yeah, this was super simple, super easy. Obviously, I will say I wouldn't know where to properly place the microphone to do that, or the software you're using. Obviously, I don't know that, but yeah, if I was given this information, and I know how to use a Yamaha QL1, so that's about the extent of my high-end knowledge. Sure, I could definitely put in some little helpful pop-ups here. So you might be wondering, it says right here, since I've chosen this Milo array, this is the Milo array right here, and it says Milo, and then here it says distance to center of Milo array. And so you're kind of wondering, like, where do I put the mic? And there's a little pop-up here that says, probably just choose front of house. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. It's sort of a shortcut. It works a lot of the time. And it just says, as long as the front of house depth is 50 to 100% of the audience, it's sensible to choose this as your crossover alignment position to avoid putting the mixer in a null position. So if you had a question about that, I hope that you would click on this and see like, oh, okay, I just do this and I stand in front of house and it should work. The other thing that's good about this is that it's so fast that if you try it and you listen to it and it doesn't work, then you can pretty quickly just choose another position that's somewhere else in the audience that you think will work.
So I may be doing more audio, guys, just so you guys know out there. I'm going to be using this a lot.
Omar's getting so many calls. His alignments are so good. What can we say? So yeah, unless there are other questions, I can do a couple of other demos. I can show you guys some more features here that will be more interesting to sound engineers. Probably the thing I should mention next is that there is this listen step that I keep skipping over because we can't really do it together now. But at this point, you would play this test signal through your phone, through the sound system, and basically take these settings that I've recommended, that the app has recommended, in and out, and see if it works. If it makes an improvement, then you would probably click the thumbs up. And then if you wanted to like take a photo and write some notes about this particular event, then you could keep those in your kind of journal. And then when you head over to this profile page here, unless I deleted them, yeah, then you can kind of see a list of them. And I don't know if I have any with any photos here, but basically you can see a list of all the alignments that I've done. And if there were any photos, they would show up here.
That's pretty cool. Is there a online? Does it track online, or does it just stay in the app? This part of it, the listen and the recording of the notes.
It's all online. I'm going to put the app. I'm going to put the link into the chat. Oh, it just did. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, so it's all online. You have to be connected to the internet. One of the most common requests I've gotten so far is to make it work offline, which won't actually be that hard. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I realize this is important for people who, you know, you get into like a basement in a ballroom and there's no Wi-Fi, or you're like out in the country and there's no data signal or whatever. Like it actually happens pretty commonly, especially for people that I hear from in Australia. There's just so many places apparently in Australia that don't have data coverage yet. So I know that's an important feature, but yeah, right now you need to be online.
Yeah, that's still cool though, especially if you're doing it from your phone. That you know, if you have data, that doesn't make it too difficult. So yeah, I would love to see some of the other features because it is such a simple app. It looks like it's very intuitive and you could just walk up to it and be ready to go. So yeah, let's dive into some of the other stuff that it does.
Sure. Well, I won't put the same numbers again. I'll just throw in some. Let me make sure this is on the right thing. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to put in ones. But I will go back to the same speakers that we had before. So if you are a person that, well, actually, let me go over this first. There's this thing called view limits, which when you first open it up, it's going to be a little bit confusing. So before I open it up, I'll just tell you, we mentioned before, maybe it was Ed who mentioned it. He said something about how will it change how will the crossover change if you change the level? What about aux on a sub? And the reality of today is that we need to be as flexible as possible, right? So years ago, I would say, I'm not going to change a sub after I do the alignment. It's just not possible. And if you want any more, low end, just turn it up on the output, channel EQ and give yourself more low end. But if we click this, we can see exactly how much more we can turn it up. So based on this current alignment, we can adjust the sub level down 9 dB and up 9 dB. And let me show you why that is. Over here in view plot, we can zoom into the low end here and we can see that we maintain alignment until here. And because of the magnitude offset at this frequency, where this kind of corridor ends, called a corridor of 60 degrees, this dictates how much we're going to be able to turn up the sub or turn it down at this ending frequency here and at this starting frequency here. So I'm trying not to get like too technical. I can talk more about that if you want, but so these are two little helpful.
Well, here, I have one thing that I want to say. This came from Jake Clark, and he asked us to pass this along to you. He said, system optimization is hard work. Teaching is hard work. Keep up the good stuff. The community appreciates it. I do too. I'm never too cool to admit I don't know everything and consistently strive to learn. I've been a system tech for years, and your sub-aligner tool is pretty rad. Not everyone can create submunitions and use it smartly, is I think what he was trying to say. And not every problem is always straightforward. Having more tools in the bag is a great thing, and this is certainly one of them. Great presentation.
Wow, thank you. That's cool. Good compliment. Well, and I have something for him, which is that people who have spent a lot of their life learning to do this with the current tools that are available, namely your audio analyzers, may feel like, immediately rejecting this idea. But I'll tell you how I use it in the field, which is that I take this out, and this is the first thing I use, and then I just immediately, I have a solution, okay? And then later on, assuming I have time, I haven't really taken much time out of my day by using this tool, took like 30 seconds or a minute, and then I verify that the alignment is correct. And so that's kind of how I see it fitting into the workflow of people who are already consistently using audio analyzers in their setup process.
Right, it gives you a great starting point.
Yeah. And then my hope is that for people like Omar or other people who just have to show up and do some audio, but aren't savvy to a lot of these calibration processes, hopefully it can just get them a solution. They listen to it. Does it work? It did. Great. And they sort of move on with your day. And we don't have to obsess about it.
Now, Scott had asked, does the app account for temperature variance or humidity variance?
No. Now, this is a feature that I initially had in some of the first demos, and then I took it out because I'm trying to make the whole process as fast as possible. And the reason I took it out is that my just research and a lot of the experiments I've done, have shown that really only makes a difference if you have very large distances between the two speakers. So back in our design over here, if this speaker were here and then this speaker were 100 feet away and there's 100 feet difference, then that the change in temperature and humidity would have a large enough effect on the speed of sound that it would actually change the result. As it stands, a lot of times we have these kinds of differences of like a foot or two, 3 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, and I have not found it to have a large effect. That being said, if people think that's important enough, it would be pretty easy to add. It would just be another step in the process. So, after you insert your first speaker and your second speaker, then you would go to a screen that says ambient conditions. And maybe I could make a way that you just like click through that faster. But you could insert that and then I would change the speed of sound that it uses. It's kind of a trade-off though, like, is it worth it to sort of slow the process down? But I think it would be cool to add, but that's sort of the process of how the thing has developed. At first I had it and then I took it out.
Gotcha. Scott also asks, and I'm actually going to send you this in the chat so you can read it. Does the app account for lateral vectoring of the acoustic lobes? And is it looking at broadband pink or a specific frequency?
I don't think I understand that, Scott. I'm sorry. Let me look at it again.
That's why I sent it to you,
Yeah, so I don't understand lateral vectoring of acoustic lobes. I've never heard that before. Does it? Looking at
Scott says he mostly does large outdoor stuff, so maybe since he's still around, he can give us a little more clarity on the lateral vectoring that you're talking about.
Yeah, Scott, I'm sorry. So the stimulus in this case doesn't really matter. So I guess I can say that all of the measurements that I've done have been using a stimulus with pink noise, but I'm using, audio analyzers where the stimulus is independent of the measurement itself. So I could be using music. It doesn't really matter. I don't think that's really answering your question. Sorry about that, though.
So he clarified. He says your view is from the side. He's thinking three-dimensionally. So do you take into account, we're looking at this as a side view. Do you look at it from a different elevation or an overview or facing the speaker system?
Sure. So we're looking at this in a 2D prediction environment in MapXC just because it was easy. And I thought it would be easier for people to visualize that way. But in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. All subaligner cares about is distance from the source. And the point that you choose to align at then will create an alignment at that position. So whether or not they're offset in the vertical plane, the horizontal plane, or both, it doesn't really matter. It's funny that you mentioned that because I had some head scratching to do when I first started on this as well. Like, how do I account for that? And I realized this will be a really simple project because all I really need to know is the two distances. How the sound gets there, what trajectory it takes doesn't really matter. And then it does matter where you choose to align, and that's the question. But in terms of the solution that subaligner comes up with is not.
Right. That was what I was wondering. So how do you pick your alignment point, like where you want to measure from? And then in systems like that first church that you showed where they did a center cluster for the sub with a left-right hang, how much do you consider, subs being omnidirectional for the most, or low frequency being omni for the most part, shouldn't make much difference. But for people who are maybe on the outsides of the line array, as opposed to the people who are more centered, how much, thinking about that do you take into account when you do stuff, your alignments?
Sure. So I have some go-to spots. I don't want to repeat the same answers I've already given, but I have some graphics here that maybe will help. Okay. So if we jump down to a center ground sub, this is kind of the situation that we're talking about, right? Like if we have this left-right position of the mains, and then we've got the sub on the ground here. So my go-to solution for that is this, which can look a little bit complicated, but is actually not that hard to just do with your eyes. So imagine a line connecting the acoustic center of your subwoofer array and the acoustic center of one of your main arrays. Then bisect that line. Oh, let me zoom in here. Then bisect that line at a 90-degree angle. And then when you get to head height, that's your alignment position in the horizontal plane. And then in the vertical plane, in terms of depth, I would use something like Merlin Van Veen's sub-align. Shoot, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name of his calculator right now, but Merlin Van Veen has a calculator that will help you figure out the depth. And that's what I'd use for the depth, or just use the front of house depth. And that is I've been calling that the zero offset line, but basically I got this idea from Merlin Van Veen as well. And that will give you, is that the page that I want? I think maybe I skipped ahead. Now I got to zoom out. What's going on? Here we go. So that'll give you a solution like this up here in the top, where you have this nice straight line going back, and this is going to be the zero offset line between your subs on the ground and your mains up in the air.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So check out the guide. What I tried to make it accessible a little bit like a user's manual, so that you could basically take a look at the four solutions that I have here for these common types of subs or configurations, and then just jump to those and see the two, solutions that I've come up with.
Great. And where's that resource? Where can we find that? Where can I direct people to find that?
Yeah, let me grab the link for you.
Great. Scott followed up that he ends up doing a fair amount of beam steering, which is why he asked that lateral aspect question.
Yeah, so beam steering is going to affect that, but all of your subwoofer arrays are going to have an acoustic center. So in terms of what microphone position you choose, I would reference the acoustic center of that array that you're doing, and kind of have that be your guide.
Great. We are getting close to the hour. If there's anything is there anything left that you wanted to cover, Nathan, before we talk?
Just two more important things. Number one, if you're into audio analyzers, you click this export button. You can download all these traces, import them directly into your audio analyzer. And that way, when you go to do these measurements, then you have something to compare it to. And this is what I've discovered that people who are advanced in this topic do. They don't just blindly go out and do measurements and then try to figure out what to do with it. They always have some kind of comparison. So this is a good resource, especially if you've never measured the speakers before and you're going to measure some tomorrow. You say, okay, I need to measure these, so let me download these, get them into my audio analyzer. And then this last thing is kind of experimental, but I hope this will make the people happy who are seeing this and they're saying, hey, I don't want to add more delay to my system, or delay is not the answer. Well, I have some alternative solutions here, and they don't always work, but I provide you with at least 3 of them. And what I mean by they don't always work is that I give you an improvement calculation here. So how much better is this crossover alignment going to be if you use this filter combination? Well, it'll be negative 578% better. But we're talking about like minor changes. It looks like a big number. So if you think this delay number is too high, this result that you get, check this filter settings here and see if you can find something that has less overall delay and still maybe has not too much of a change in the improvement, at least not in the negative direction. And yeah, I think that's all I'll say about that. I'd be happy for anyone here in the AV Educate community to use as many of the trial alignments as you want. You'll see when you sign up that there's a trial that you can choose. And right now, I just would like to have more people test it and give me feedback on it. So if you're here listening to this today and you'd like to test it a bunch of times, just keep sending me emails and telling me that you're testing it, and I'll just keep giving you, more trial alignments, and you can just, because as long as you're helping me out, like developing it, I would be happy to have you keep using it.
What is beyond a trial? What does the app cost?
So right now it's $9 a month, and I'm thinking that will be appropriate for kind of your power users who are doing. I'm hoping this will be like a really sharp tool that you're using every day, and I think that would be worthwhile for those people. And then for sort of your casual users, you may never get past the trial number of alignments that go in there. But yeah, that's the cost right now.
Cool.
Do you want me to just do a quick recap? Because I know we talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, that would be great.
So let me skip to that page. Here we go. So sub-alignment. I like to keep this ROI in mind. Like, what is the ROI of the sub-alignment? If it's $6,000 and we can solve it pretty easily without too much pain, like, why leave that money on the table? I talked about some things that don't work. We went over the sine wave technique. I have a few more. I have a whole article about it actually over here. I'll put that into the chat as well. That I didn't go over a bunch of these, but basically I go through and talk about every sub-alignment method that I've tried and how I've screwed it up. I talked about the one thing I found that did work, which is this relative absolute method. You can use this for free by yourself, create your own library of speakers. You don't have to use the Subaligner app. That's what a lot of people do already. I'm just trying to make it easier for people by, combining all of the resources. So for example, in Subliner right now, you have something like 8,000 variations of speakers. And I feel like this would be something that would be difficult for most people to just like do on their own and just have in a spreadsheet. And, oh, this is old. So before I had the app, I was just asking people to fill out a survey, but now you can just try the app and send me your feedback. That's it. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you very much. Do you want to leave your share up, or do you want to join us back as a person?
I'll go ahead and take it down. People got my email address. It's nathan@sounddesignlive.com.
Cool.
We shared it in the chats for the community.
Great. So awesome.
I left the ears on the entire time.
Like a true mad genius.
Exactly.
So, Nathan, I just want to thank you so much for being on here with us and sharing your knowledge with the community as always, man. Glad we could make this happen for everybody involved. Glad you were able to be here with us. I just want to leave the final, not the final, but the final word in your court. Is there anything you could tell anybody who may be looking to get into audio or to look at sub-alignment? It might be words of encouragement for them coming into this industry right now with everything going on.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about world events in particular, but in general, my recommendation is to not wait to get started. I do a lot of the content that I do is just trying to convince people to not let limitations hold them back. So if you think you need the right microphone, you're probably wrong. If you need the right software, you're probably wrong. There's free software to get started with. You can use any microphone laying around the house. There's really no reason to be afraid of getting started, learning about physics, learning about audio analyzers. It's the most fun part of my job at this point. And so that's, I guess, the word I want to leave you with is to get started playing around with this stuff today. There's really no reason to wait and nothing to be afraid of.
I love that. That was great advice. And from you saying that and some of the verbiage you used earlier today, and Adam, you talked about this a lot, and I feel like you might be all on the same boat. For the guys out there who are, they have the time now, right? Like all of us, we have some time to really dive into some stuff, some of the gear we're using, some of the software we're using, whether it be paid or freed. Would you say you're an advocate of reading the manuals for the things that you're working on?
When would the question be no to that? That's such a funny question. Yeah, I mean, reading manuals is kind of fun for me. Yeah, I'm not sure what to say. Yeah, manuals are important. Gotta read them.
100%. Yeah, no, just something we say on the chat on this page a lot to the community out there, whether it be in the podcast side or the AV Tech Talk side, is when you're mastering something or getting used to something, read the manual. That's the first thing you should be doing. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised, don't always agree with that statement. They want to go to YouTube land and find out that one piece of information for that one scenario. And it's like, yeah, but if you read the manual on that chapter of that one piece of scenario, you would have learned a whole bunch of other things for the next time. You wouldn't have to be looking this shit up. You would just know it already.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing you're looking for is that you're always looking for ways that you can be the most prepared person on site and not the least prepared person. You want to show up ready to like solve problems and be the hero and not sort of like, oh, what are these speakers? What do these do? Like, I don't know. You want to be like, I know exactly what that thing does. It goes like this, turn this thing, turn that thing on. And, it just makes your job more fun too.
Right. You want to be the AV hero on job, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use that verbiage one day. AV hero. I like it. It'll come soon, I promise. But anyways, again, Nathan, thank you so much for being here. Thanks to the community. Thanks to the Zoom people, or thanks for Zoom and you guys here, the panelists. Thanks to the Facebook land. Thanks to everybody out there in social media world for being here with us and for learning and for asking your questions and participating with us today. Again, I don't like to have the final word. Bodie or Ed, you guys are more than welcome to have the final word and close us out for the night.
Well, I mean, before we jumped, I did want to just get any reactions from the panel. We last week we kind of dove into Nina, just getting out of school recently, as someone who's somewhat new to sound design, what were some of your reactions to Nathan's presentation today?
I find it empowering personally. Like even just hearing you don't need to have smart, or you don't need to have all of these high-end expensive, like getting the perfect microphone, just being able to start somewhere with a cell phone app is really nice. And it's also making me think for sound design, virtually some things is like, oh, the difference of having a sub in the air versus I've always had them on the ground, because I've had them under audience seating for sort of the rumble effect, and like I'm come from a theatrical sound design perspective. So think about how I could use this app with a surround system and surround PAs, and like how to make that get all of that aligned together. So that's, in terms of first impressions, that's just kind of what I'm thinking about as I move forward. So thank you.
Cool. Anybody else have anything they want to take away? Andreas, you had some comments earlier. What are your thoughts about this app and just sub alignment in general?
Well, the app, I love it. I'm on the page going through it as we speak here. So yes, when I started something like this for like all the people that don't have all the tools, it's a lot helpful, because you never not always have the smart and the mics and all this other stuff, or the same amount of equipment everywhere.
Or the time, right?
Or the time, yeah.
As Nathan said, this is often an afterthought.
This is kind of the pitch, right? Is that, and this is the thing that Omar put on the event page, which is from the Subliner website, which talks about kind of the democratization of tools. Like, it shouldn't be only the people with 10 years of experience and like deep pockets that can buy the best tools that can do this stuff, you know? So trying to open it up a little bit more so that kind of anyone can do it, you know, or you know, just getting more tools into more hands, and not making it take years and years of experience before you get the ROI on the kind of tools you've invested in and the training you've invested in.
I'm sending this link to all of my sound guys. So
yeah, there was a lot of great information. We covered a wide array of topics. So thank you from Facebook and from the webinar side on Zoom here for giving us so many good things to talk about with your questions. It was all great stuff. With that, if does anybody else, maybe Andy Lipnick? I know you and Nathan have worked together before.
Yeah, I've he's A2'd for me and I've A2'd for him. Yeah, it's always been an interesting experience because he came at it very differently than I did, and I've always learned a lot from his knowledge and his knowledge. Nathan, your knowledge ever increases. It's always growing, so it's always very cool, and it's great that you share that with everybody. So I really appreciate that. And one of the other things I wanted to say too, because this came up for a number of people. To me, it's all about best practices. Like, for example, try and get your speakers in front of your mic line, and things like that. And there's tons of those things that if you just do those things, you'll be so far ahead of the game. And getting your subs aligned is one of those things. It may not be the first thing you do, like Nathan had said earlier, but it's still pretty damn important if you take the whole scope of what you're trying to achieve. So I really applaud that. And I'm certainly going to, I have not used your subaligner tool that much. So now I'm going to start using it. You sold me, man.
Awesome. And I just want to say that I remember the first time we worked together, and I remember being so impressed that you had an app that could control your mixer. And it wasn't the first time I'd seen this, but I just didn't know that you could control this particular mixer. And just looking back, it wasn't that many years ago, but it's funny that I'm now I'm not really a software developer, but I'm involved in software, but it's funny to look back and I was like, this is amazing, Andy.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Nathan, again, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody on the panel. Thank you everybody for watching, for the great questions. This was awesome. I love to geek out about audio stuff. I'm surrounded by a lot of video people, so it's nice to be able to have these conversations. With that, Chris, you got anything you want to close us out tonight?
Just same as last week, guys. For me, I'm helping the kiddos out. So anything you guys can come and help me with at twitch.tv/Toxic Biowolf. It is all for the kids. Everything I do on my channel is now for the kids. Other than that, Nathan, thank you very much. As a non-audio guy, there were actually some things I understood because of car audio in there about crossover and things like that. You have to deal with that when you're balancing out your mids to your highs to your twitters and your subs in your car. So I'm a car audio guy, which is kind of weird, but yeah. Yeah, I greatly appreciate it as always. Thank you for presenting. Thank you everybody that comes out to view us do these, and you guys are the reason why we do this. We want to keep educating you guys. So that's
20th episode. I mean, you guys keep coming back, so we appreciate that. Thank you guys very much. And with that, I guess we'll say goodbye to Facebook. We'll see you guys next week. Oh, Omar, who's on? Sorry, before we go, who's on this Wednesday for the podcast? Well, Wednesday night.
Sorry.
Join Omar for the podcast.
I gotta look
edition.
it up. No, I know who it is. I know who it is. So sorry. So this Wednesday night is Clem. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this, man. I'm so bad. By the way, my first language is Spanish. Clem Harold. No L. Harold. He's gonna be talking to us. He's the owner of clemco.hr, also the writer and author. Another author that I know. Another author who wrote. So he's on the group video production support group, which is how I know him. He also wrote a book on the business side. Brent knows the book as well. It looks like, right? He's wrote another book that's very good for the industry. If you're new to the industry or the few years and you're looking to transition from that stagehand to that more engineering side, and you're looking to learn more about the HR and the payroll and the accounting and the business side, he's got a very good book written for you. I won't give out too much because we're going to talk about that book. We're going to talk about Clem, how he went from stage or intern to a camera operator, video projection to business owner, and where he's going now in the future, about mentorships and about leading people. And I'd like to say that I'm finally now in a position to mentor people. And I just took out Bodie on a show recently, and I think I executed it very well, and he put him in a good position to succeed and excel, and he executed it very well.
Great, and that'll be on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Is that correct?
That is correct. Wednesday, 10 Eastern night on AV Educate. It is called the AV Educate Podcast Edition. So tune into that. And that is with Austin Jackson and myself. We'll have Clemco on there. If you guys are interested in seeing what else we have out in AV Educate right now, we are posting much more ahead of time. We usually just plan this out and post within a couple of days. But in order to speed up our processes, we've decided to kind of expedite some things and get them out ahead of time for you guys in the community. So if you want to see what's going on, go to the AV Educate page, go to the event side, and you'll see everything for the rest of this month. And as we pick up things and confirm 100% with things going next month, we're already locking things down and posting them up there. We were waiting originally for, having everything finalized to give to you guys as a final product. But we were getting a lot of feedback on it. So we decided to just get stuff out there, lock in the dates. And then once the speakers confirm with us, we create the content that day, post everything, get it all created, and get it out there for you guys. So go ahead and if you haven't already, follow us on AV Educate on Facebook, follow us there. And you guys can get updates about all these events coming out there between the AV Tech Talks and the AV Podcast Edition.
And next week, we have Jeff Keithley joining us to talk about virtual production in the cloud. So he's on a string of shows. He's super busy. But he said to me the other day via email, he said that a commitment is a commitment, and he's going to make sure that he makes the time to get in and show us cloud production. So we really appreciate that. So next
production
Monday,
over the cloud.
Yeah, he said worst case, honestly what he said, worst case, he'll pull over on the side of the road when he's going from point to point. He'll fire up his AWS and show us remote production from his car. So if that doesn't tell you something, that this is the future, you don't want to miss this talk next week. That's going to be on the 23rd, right before Thanksgiving, and then we'll be back the week after with Chris and Rocco's OBS challenge. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. So this week, Wednesday, Omar's podcast. Next week, remote production, and then tons of other great stuff from for AV Tech Talk. So with that, it's 9:15 here on the East Coast. We'll all say goodbye to Facebook. Bye, Facebook. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.